afternoon. I'll firstly introduce myself. I'm Joan Power. I am one of the newest members to the BizTalk 360 team and customer relationships team. I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Shubha. Shubha is a program manager within Azure Core. She's responsible for event hubs, service features, port experience, and metrics across all messaging services. During the next session, Shubha will talk about how Event Hubs is shifting the way people build big data pipelines and process their big data, as well as provide you with some latest development in Event Hubs. Ladies and gentlemen, Shubha.
Thank you. My name is Shubha Vijayasarathy. Hello, very warm welcome. Thank you for that. And I'm a program manager at Microsoft. Event Hubs team, in fact, messaging team, focusing mainly on Event Hubs. And our messaging team, as Dan mentioned, is responsible for three messaging services, Service Bus, Event Hubs, and Relay services. What I'm going to focus on is mainly Event Hubs and how Event Hub offers you solutions when you think of Event Hubs in a big data pipeline or big data industry. As I go through the various features about Event Hubs, I want to mainly focus on three S's because we, as a product group, want to build simple, scalable, and stable solutions. This applies pretty much across all our messaging services. So this is what our main focus is. This is like the triangle within which we build our solutions. So I'll not ask the same question what Dan asked. How many of you know Event Hubs? I'll jump into, thank you for that. I'll jump into what Event Hubs is. So Event Hubs is a distributed streaming PaaS solution that provides massive scale, low latency, publish, subscribe capabilities. Event Hubs uses HTTPS and AMQP protocols with native clients in Java and .NET. It is a perfect on-ramp for big data solutions. So when we talk of Event Hubs in big data solutions or a big data pipeline, we know that we want big data so we can make better return on investments, smarter business solutions. So once we know why we want big data, most of our customers, what our customers do is identify what data they are interested in. These could be applications or your custom protocols or your VMs or your devices which produce data which you are interested in. Once you identify the data that you are interested in, what our customers do is write plumbing for these applications to produce events on one side, and as they move through the pipeline at different stages of refinement, they ingress into the cloud. That's where Event Hub sits in as a big data ingestion service. Also integrating to what facilitates to the rest of the downstream processing. So you break down your streams, process to take action on them. So while we've seen fast data or slow data, while we see the different streams, we also see customers wanting to stream the data to a persistent store. Mainly, we see customers wanting to do this for long-term storage or batch processing. So Event Hubs has this feature, this service enabled called Capture. It was formally known, it was launched as a public preview, and we public reviewed the service in September 2016. We called it Archive then, was a code name that we initially used, whatever our team code name was. So we now changed it, we now call it Capture. What it enables you is, it lets you do batch and real-time processing on the same stream. So you can automatically send events to your chosen destination. Right now, we send the events, we push the events to Azure Storage Blobs. In weeks to come, we are also adding Azure Data Lake Store. With this, there is no overhead. You don't have to configure anything. You don't have to code anything. All you have to do is click to enable the capture service on your event hubs, and we automatically take care of all the management and all the configuration to push the data into your destination. And how does this work? We have event hub, and we have event data in event hub. You specify a time and size slot within which you want the capture to kick in and push the data. As you hit the time and slot, whichever is first come or first wins, whatever time or size, whichever comes first, we start capturing the data based on that time and size window into your blob storage, and soon to come data store as well. What excites me is this service is going GA, will be generally available across all Azure regions on June 28, 2017. That is Wednesday. So it really excites me to make this announcement. With that, we do have price changes. We generally give a 50% discount on our public previewed services. So when this goes GA, the price will be reflected, although you have a grace period of 1 month to enjoy the discounted price. Starting August 1st, Capture will have its full price. And please try it on the portal. All you have to do is just click it on your event hubs to enable it. So behind me, you'll see, I think Dan, again, briefly ran through this. I'm not going to go deep into it, but these are some of the common patterns and scenarios that we see our customers do or use event hubs for, like live dashboarding, user telemetry processing, application logging, device telemetry. These are some of the common patterns that you see in the big data world, and that's where event hubs also fits in, because if we see, based on our customers, where event hubs is being used, we see event hubs in everywhere where big data matters. And these are behind me is a couple of industries that you can see where big data, where we find event hubs as a big data ingestion service. Sorry for the same repeated slide. Dan ran this. This is a little conceptual architecture. Probably I'm going to add a little more to it. As again, we have event producers, we have event receivers on the end. On the other end, we use a partition consumer model, which lets you scale. We have, what does that mean is we can have concurrent readers read from the partition at the same time, which gives you a maximum degree of downstream parallelism. When it comes to event hubs, the cost that is associated with event hubs is on the ingress part, which means we do not charge for your egress. So the number of partition that you specify is not associated with the cost. It's mainly so we can provide you a maximum degree of parallelism. I want to show a specific scenario how the partitions map to. So it's a simplified analogy. I'm trying this for the first time. I would really love to hear feedback on this. I'm taking a specific scenario where I have EH times that I call a news agency EH times, which can be mapped as your event hubs. And I have multiple reporters which send various news into EH times. So these could be various sections of data, and I've just taken 4 of them, named it politics, finance, sports, and art. So I have reporters reporting or getting the data and pushing these data putting the data into event hubs based on these sections. And these sections here can be considered as partitions. So they're how the data that gets distributed in event hubs is in partitions. So partitions are like logical separation of your data inside event hubs. So reporters report various sections of the data, and they put in the data in various partitions. And we use something called as consumer group. It's like a view, or it's an app that you can use that is used to receive or retrieve the data from Event Hubs. Consider this as an editor who's a reader, Event Hub reader, or an editor who is trying to pull the data or consume the data from each of the partitions and update a particular website. So here I've taken EHPN sports website, where the editor is trying to get the sports data and trying to update his website. We do have a couple of rules while we are trying to retrieve from the partitions. We have consumer groups, which are apps which you can, which lets you read from each of those partitions. We have, or you can have only one active reader on a particular partition in a particular consumer group. That means to say, suppose this editor who's doing a sports section is working on a shift, say 8-hour shift, 8 to 4. Once he does his shift, he checkpoints it and takes off. Then there is another editor working on the same sports section who comes in, picks up from the checkpoint, and updates the website. So this is what a client-side checkpointing, probably Dan did mention about this as well. So the key takeaway is we can only have one active reader at a time per partition, per consumer group. Assume if you were to read all the partitions, you would think of editors trying to update a newspaper. All these concurrently read at the same time from all these partitions and update the newspaper. So this is a simple analogy of how the Event Hub partitions and how Event Hubs lets you parallelly read at the same time and let you do your receiving end. This gets a little interesting, although I'm not going to go very deep into it. When I got this analogy out, Dan was like, it sounds something like topics. And so I just want to bring out key points, subtle differences, how topics, service-based topics are different from Event Hubs. So with service-based topics, every message that comes in says, an action has to be taken. Whereas Event Hubs, it's a message retention buffer. As soon as the message is present in an Event Hub, it says, okay, FYI, there is the message that is now available for you to consume. Like I mentioned, it's partition consumer model. It's a buffer, it's a retention buffer. Consumers cannot remove the messages from Event Hub. You have to set a policy, consumers have to set a policy, which is a retention period policy, saying anywhere between 1 and 7 days, saying this is the number of days I want my data be available in Event Hub. So we take care of that, and once the X number of days is done, we delete the data. So users have no control on the data. And it allows for massive scaling because a single stream of message, all consumers read from that single stream of message, like you saw with the partitions. Since this is a message retention buffer, it also lets you replay. You can come back. That's where Dan's tape recorder came into picture, which is a very nice analogy. So you have message replay, so you can come back and reread your messages in the given retention period that you have set. So moving to how Event Hubs lets you scale. When we talk about big data, we can start small, and we think of scaling every time there is scaling. And I want to discuss about how Event Hubs lets you scale. We have the concept of throughput unit. Throughput unit is a reserved capacity. It's a variable reserved capacity. This is something that you purchase when you initially create an Event Hub. When you go to the portal, say plus new, create an Event Hub. This is the unit that you're reserving and you're purchasing. What it entitles you is for 1 MB per second or 1,000 messages per second ingress, and 2 MB per second or 2,000 messages per second egress. And the throughput units are available at namespace. A namespace lets you do a FKDN type of thing, so it's available at the namespace level, and irrespective of the number of event hubs that you can create under that particular namespace. Today, we let you choose these throughput units in 1 to 20, up to 20, and it's charged hourly. Beyond 20, we do have a lot of customers wanting to go beyond 20, which we do in blocks of 20 up to 100. You'll have to open a support ticket with us. And I'm going to come to the additional options part a little later. When we say when we ask you to reserve a capacity and you reserve a particular capacity and your workload traffic goes beyond that reserved capacity, your overages are throttled. What does this mean is if you have one throughput unit reserved and your traffic goes up greater than one throughput unit, you get server busy exceptions. So Event Hub launched this month a feature called Auto Inflate, which is a scale-up feature. Note that this only lets you scale up and so inflate and not scale down. What it does is you start small and you enable a limit that you think you would want to grow to, and based on your traffic, we gradually grow you, we gradually scale you up. This option, which can be enabled or disabled, a simple click on in the portal, will let you will prevent throttling, and the throttling is prevented when your data ingress or data egress rates exceed your pre-configured TUs. I do have a demo on how this particular feature works. As you see, I have a simple Java client which is trying to send up to 6 throughput units on my namespace, which only has one throughput unit enabled. And as soon as I do that, I hit my limit and I see my request is being throttled. I do get server busy exception. So I go to the portal. I select my namespace and I enable my auto inflate, and this time I say I want to be able to inflate up to 10 throughput units, although I start from 1, as you can see. I save this and it has to be enabled at the namespace level. I come back and I run my client, and this time I'm forcing my throughputs to go up to 8, and you can see that it runs smoothly. It's been handled, the traffic has been handled gracefully without getting any throttling or any server busy exceptions. As you can see, my throughput now has risen up to 7 throughput units, and still under the limit of my auto inflate, max limit of auto inflate, which is 10. And my traffic burst has been handled very gracefully. This is available in all Azure regions. I really encourage you to give it a try. And I did talk about additional options beyond 20 throughput units. We do have another SKU called the dedicated Event Hub SKU. We introduced this SKU in 2016, mainly to focus on the most demanding customers beyond 100 throughput units. We talk about massive scale. So we introduced this dedicated SKU mainly for our most demanding customers. This queue requires enterprise agreement. You have to be under EA to enable this. What this offers is a completely dedicated platform. That means that there are no resources that is being shared. It's a completely dedicated to you. That means there is no noisy neighbors. And it's sold in terms of capacity units. What a capacity unit offers, although we see customers doing somewhere between 250 to 300 throughput units, we very conservatively guarantee that it allows up to, it allows a guaranteed minimum of 200 throughput units. The other advantages of dedicated is it also includes Event Hubs Capture. Capture otherwise is a service which is priced. It's a flat monthly rate. You have to be under EA, and we relax the message size when it comes to dedicated to go up to 1 MB as against 256 KB on standard and basic. Today we offer capacity units from 1 to 8 CUs, 8 capacity units, anywhere between 1 and 8 capacity units. We can increase beyond 8 capacity units, but we have seen our customers go only up to 8 capacity units. And the experience for setting up the dedicated events hub today is you have to call us, give us a call, and we set this up for you. And your experience starts from the namespace level, not from the cluster level. So it's massive. It requires an agreement. It requires a commitment because it is targeted at most demanding customers. While we introduced this, we also got our customers asking this queue, can this queue be made available in smaller chunks and be available to everybody? And we thought, why not? And very soon, we are working on this. We are very soon introducing Event Hub clusters. I like this guy. I really like this guy. What Event Hubs clusters, dedicated Event Hub clusters gives you is it's available in the portal, whereas dedicated capacity, dedicated SKU is not available in the portal today. Whereas dedicated Event Hub clusters will be available in the portal. You can stand this cluster all by yourself. All you have to do is just go, like any other Azure service, click on the plus, add an Event Hub dedicated cluster, and you can stand this up, starting from choosing to deployment. It deploys, we target to deploy it in less than 2 hours. You can stand, once it's deployed, it'll stand up, and you can monitor the health of each of these clusters. You have complete control of it. It is integrated with Azure monitoring, so it gives you complete cluster monitoring. You can monitor the health, you can monitor the KPIs. You can start small. Our smallest clusters start from 5K, although these clusters can be stood up and are charged hourly. That means to say you can stand this up for a couple of hours with each hour being charged less than $7. $7. Because it is dedicated, there is no sharing of resources. That means you get repeated performance every time. And with all our dedicated, because it's our premium cluster, we include our premium services like Capture. So Capture comes included. You don't have to pay extra on Capture. And our message size, we bump up the message size for our dedicated to up to 1 MB. And it will be available in all regions. Currently, this is under gated private preview. We target to public preview this, hopefully, or private preview this by September 2017. I want this one out as well as soon as possible. So here's a demo. I'm going to show you of how the cluster experience is going to look on the Azure portal. I'll not go ahead and create it because the deployment takes less than 2 hours, I'm up to 2 hours. So I have a cluster already created. So I already have a dedicated cluster created called Black Pearl. As you can see the cluster health, the KPIs, the various metrics that you would be interested in for the cluster. With dedicated cluster, you can have much more configurable capabilities, like you can set the number of TUs on each of the event hubs that can be created. You can go ahead and create the event hubs like you would do under any namespace, under any standard namespace. Although I'm not creating, if you see the namespace, you have variable parameters that you can set. You can set the number of throughput units on each of the event hubs that you can create, on each of the namespace that you can create. You can set the number of namespaces that you can create under your cluster. Since this is a completely dedicated cluster, it's like a small Azure region where you can put a lot of event hubs in small dedicated Azure region for you, and you control it. You can turn on various features that we as a product group control all by yourself. With that, this is not just for event hubs. This is all messaging wide. I want to say that we have some namespace updates. Back in 2016, all the services, all the messaging services, the event hubs, service bus, and relay services were all together. And if you remember, if anybody remembers the old portal experience of how you would create an event hub, you had to create a service bus namespace, a messaging namespace, and then create event hubs or relay under it. As the services grew and were catering to different customer needs, although they are messaging services and is handled by the same team, we thought it was time for the services to be split. They were matured enough, and we successfully split it. What does that mean? That means that you have a completely different service experience for each of the services in the new Azure portal. Although our old portal remains still the same, our new portal is where we want to head to and pretty soon make that our new home for all our new services. All these services are completely independent. They have their own resource providers, their own ARM resource providers, and offer you completely different portal experience. So with this, we feel that it's now time that we sunset things on the old Azure portal. By September, we are planning to close down or bring down our service on the old portal and make the new Azure portal our permanent home. So follow our blogs. We have a lot of updates. We keep updating on these changes, and we want to know how it impacts you. We want to know does it impact you, how it impacts you, and how we can help you get into our new independent services. So follow our blogs, get in touch with us. We're all here at this conference as well. If you have any questions regarding this, we're happy to help you as well. So we'll soon be sunsetting things. And Dan did give a little glimpse of what is coming soon. Messaging wide, yes. I'm going to give you what is coming Event Hub specific for Event Hubs mainly. GODR capability, like Dan discussed, will be available pretty soon, at least for private preview, starting next month for Event Hubs. Encryption at rest will be available by the end of next month. Metrics in the new portal. Service Bus 360 is a great product. We always recommend that to customers. Although we do have a very small metric story, we have enabled some of the metrics at namespace level for all our services in the new portal. Pretty soon, we will be adding entity level metrics in the new portal. This metrics has a pricing model attached to it. That means a price is attached to the entity level metrics, although the namespace level metrics are free. This metric model is going to go with a public preview first before it is generally available. Under public preview, although the metrics will be free, even at the entity level. And for capture, we are having Azure Data Lake Store with private preview right now, and will soon be going under public preview in weeks to come. And as I mentioned, dedicated Event Hub clusters are for private preview, are right now under gated private preview, will soon open up for a larger audience for private preview as well. And this is where I think we definitely do need your feedback on what we are focusing with respect to Event Hubs. As I mentioned, we as a product group, we focus on developing simple, scalable, and stable solutions. We want to build a stronger story as an integrated service. We want a very strong big data integrated story for Event Hubs. We are focusing on building a lot of client ecosystem along with along with the GODR and encryption and rest and all the other messaging wide important capabilities. So we would really love your feedback on what would matter to you and what do you think about Event Hubs and big data. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to take it. Otherwise, yeah, thank you.